And good evening. I'm here today with Carolyn and Susan. They're going to be talking about their new book, Intentional from the Start, Guiding Emergent Readers in Small Groups. So let's have a quick look at the book. Okay, so this is the book we're talking about. And I'm going to begin by asking each of them to tell us a little bit about yourselves, and then we'll get into some things about the book. So Dr. B, shut up and let the people talk. Go for it.
Hi, everybody. I'm Susan Vincent. I have a 30-year history. I hate to say that. It makes me sound so old now, but 30-year history with early literacy. I started as a first grade teacher and then got into reading intervention with reading recovery. I was a reading recovery teacher and teacher leader. And then I was a reading specialist and I was a literacy coach for different districts around our area. And for the last 5 years, I've been a faculty member at Miami University here in Ohio. I'm in Cincinnati, Ohio, I guess I should say, which Miami University is my alma mater. So I've been teaching pre-service teachers at my alma mater. And I'm just about to finish that gig. And I'm transitioning into a new job with Collaborative Classroom. I don't know if you've heard of that, but Collaborative Classroom has programs in reading and writing and intervention as well. So I'm excited about my new position there. And yeah, yay. Personally, if you want to know a little personal information, I've been married to a teacher also for 30 years. We've been married for as long as I've been teaching. He just retired. And we have 2 adult children. Our daughter is a veterinarian. Our son works in marketing. And we have a dog and a cat.
All right. Okay.
Hello,
Carolyn.
everybody. I'm Carolyn, and my life echoes Susan's a little bit. I'll start with my personal stuff. I have also been married almost 30 years and have 2 grown children. My daughter is married and she is a psych nurse in the psych ward, and God love her, loves every minute of it. And we need people like that. My son is a computer programmer. So he writes code in our basement because he's waiting for his girlfriend to finish school so that they can figure out where their life is going to take them. I have also been teaching 30 years. My 30-year anniversary is actually on Thursday, December 2nd. So, and I have been at Maddox the entire time, 30 years, and the entire time in kindergarten. So I spent some of that teaching 2 half days, and then Hannah was born and I went part-time. And then when Jonathan went to school in 1st grade, I was lucky enough to be able to snag a reading recovery position and be trained by Susan. So spent 11 years in reading recovery, then went on to be reading specialist and kindergarten, and now I'm full day kindergarten. So my favorite position was really half-day kindergarten and reading recovery, but full day kindergarten is right there, right below that. So
Yeah, that's a go for position. Oh, and I would mention 50 years and 50 years married to a teacher. So I'll see you 30 and raise you 20. Okay, so here we go. Let's put something up on the share screen for just a second. And this is a figure from your book. You call it the literacy puzzle. And it's going to be the topic of the first question. And in just a second, I'll say to take over on that question. So give us the big picture of your book and talk briefly about that figure and what's involved in that puzzle.
Okay, so well, the big picture of our book, focuses on the emergent reader and those critical beginning text levels from pre-A to D. We set out to write intentional from the start so that teachers could understand how important those beginning levels are, even though they seem very easy. So, and we want them, all the little things that they need to learn in pre-A through D is what's going to help them to be successful in text beyond level D. So, we spend a little time talking about how the brain works and how emergent readers learn. We talk a little bit about, and well, actually in great detail, one whole chapter looks at each of the different levels and why those level texts are written the way that they are and how they support a non-reader into becoming a reader. And we talk about, and then the rest of the chapters talk about each level in a lot of detail. Here's what children need to learn. Here's how you can do it, but also being flexible with how you do that.
Okay.
So,
And I would say that the audience for my blog is mainly teachers looking for something to advice on what to do. And it sounds like they would hit the jackpot with this book in terms of specifics and, the nuts and bolts of how to teach.
well, and Susan and I have been at this for 30 years, and there are very few books that are written just for kindergarten teachers, first grade teachers that focus on the emergent readers. So there's a lot of reading of really good books where we have to take bits and pieces and pull from to make it work for kindergarten, the emergent reader.
Mm-hmm.
And that was another reason that we worked really hard on this book to make it easy for teachers to use.
Okay, well, that's almost a perfect segue into the next thing I was going to ask you about, and that's the characteristics of an emergent reader. And what advice do you have for teachers about being intentional from the start?
Well, those of us that have worked with emergent readers probably know that they really are eager to read for meaning. When you first start working with print novices, children that really are brand new to print, they are eager to tell a story. And probably because they're used to us reading for meaning, they're used to us reading to them, parents have read to them, they're used to read aloud. So when they first hold a book in their hands and they're going to be the readers, we often run into children who kind of start to make up their own story. They're not really using the print. We can say they're inventing it because they don't know yet how to use the print. So one characteristic might be that they don't know how to coordinate what they're seeing with their eyes with what they say with their mouth. So, it's our role as the teacher to help them learn to coordinate that.
I had a lot of that going on today at the small group table.
Yeah, because we just had a little bit of a break. And so
Yes.
even if they were starting to get that coordination under control, because at this stage, they're starting to get a few, we might call them magnets in print or anchors in print, because they're starting to learn a few high frequency words that they recognize. They're starting to learn some letters and letter sounds, and those things kind of pull their eyes to the print and keep their eyes glued on that print. But they've had a little bit of a break, so they might, have forgotten that a little bit.
Yeah.
But those are the characteristics. At first, they're not really using the print. And our job in these really early levels is to teach them how to access the print and how to coordinate what they see with what comes out of their mouth. And, the same is true with writing. And that adds that movement piece to it. That, what they write is going to coordinate with, what they're saying out of their mouth. So it's the whole coordination that all relates to the brain as well.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, now I'm eager to get some key takeaways from your book. I always like to go to sessions where it's something I can use next Monday. If I'm on a weekend session, I want some things I can use in the classroom. So I know the book is a treasure trove of such things, but could you give us a few highlights of, boy, really do this. This is a good thing.
I think for me, what we were hoping to really get across is to know your readers that are sitting at your table. Know what they can do and what they need to learn next and how you're going to teach them. And the other piece of that is to know your books well. And, you know, when we were reading recovery trained, we didn't have a choice but to learn what every single nuance of every single book that we put in front of the kids. So, and that's what I want teachers to do. Get into your book rooms, get into your book baskets, and really know the characteristics of each individual book, so you know what to put in front of those children to move them forward in their reading journey and their writing journey.
Yeah.
Susan,
I would say, I'll just add in here, when we talk about these levels, I think we can get into trouble with labels, like we always get into trouble with labels,
Right.
in different ways, which we can talk about too. But one thing, I think one reason we think it's so simple to teach these early readers is you can say, oh, they're an A. We gave them a running record, so they're an A, or we gave them a test, they're an A, he's a B, and we'll just march them through any A book, any B book, any C book, any D book. But the books are very, very different, even within a level. So when you're choosing a book for a child, it's not really a matter of just, oh, this child needs to read a C, I can just reach in and grab any C. Really, you're looking for what opportunities are in that book to practice the skills that that child needs to learn. And so those opportunities might be in a C, or maybe they might be in your D basket, or they might be in your B basket. It's really not about the label on the book.
right.
It's about the opportunities that you find in that book. So that's kind of where that word intentional comes from. Teachers have to be very intentional about looking for the opportunities within those books so that the children have an opportunity to practice what you're teaching them.
Okay, I'll just throw in a quick editorial comment here. As I look at the leveled books, and I was a recovery teacher and also did guided reading and lots of things. And one of the things I love about some of my training was I was taught about the characteristics of different levels. And Jennifer Saravella even has a book where she goes into, you don't need to read the book, you know what the characteristics are, and these are the new things that are added. These are the things that readers are learning to grapple with at each different level. So I think you're not just looking at this as a matter of here's something to decode. You're looking at this as, well, okay, you're going to decode it, but you're also going to do it within the context of the particular book, and knowing your book and knowing the characteristics of that book. If a child's having trouble with return sweeps, then you, if they're not ready for return sweeps yet, then okay. So am I on the right track there in my little ditty?
I think you're on the right track.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's get into the final bit of nitty gritty here. And there are many folks out there that say, oh gosh, reading recovery has failed all the dyslexic children. It can't possibly be of any value to them. I'll be speaking about counters of that at LibCon. But what about the dyslexic child? What advice do you have, and how do you see all that fitting in? Can recovery help, and what kind of things would you do as a beginning teacher to help first of all, notice the dyslexic children and help them?
Well, I would say for one thing, and our book is geared for teachers who are teaching emergent readers. So these will probably be kindergarten and early first grade teachers. So children at that stage typically do not have a diagnosis yet of dyslexia. So teachers may have suspicions that there may be something going on, but you typically don't have a diagnosis yet. So, and that is not to say that teachers would just be, having a wait, we'll just wait and see. It's not that you don't take action, but you don't have a diagnosis because you don't know yet. So I would say that you would want to first look at your own teaching. That's what we always do first, is let's look at our own teaching and see, are we giving that child everything that we know that they need? Are they getting systematic instruction? Are they getting explicit instruction? Are they developing phonemic awareness because our instruction is teaching that? Are they, learning how to decode because our instruction is explicit in those skills? And if not, we need to do something about it.
And are they learning to encode?
Yes, and we haven't
mean-
even really dealt with that yet, but a
No.
big part of learning to read when you're at this stage is through writing.
Yes.
And Carolyn does such a good job of that with her kindergartners.
Lots and lots and lots and lots of writing.
Yeah. So
And
you would
lots of encoding.
yeah. So you'd be
Go ahead.
go ahead.
Just, being able to hear the sounds phonemically and transfer it into phonetic, linking that sound to that letter and writing it on the paper, it is so critical. And, I'm starting to find that the more that we encode, the easier the decoding becomes when they come to it in a book. So I've seen a lot of that over the last few years as we've done a lot more writing in kindergarten.
Okay,
And
well,
as far as what you talked about with reading recovery, just to go back in history, it was developed to help decide if a child needed further intervention because maybe they did have a learning disability. So it was never really designed, for dyslexic children. Or I mean, it's not to say that it wouldn't help, but I'm just saying you need more information and you need more data about children at that stage, I guess I would say.
okay. Well, wow. I can't wait. I've got a copy on order, so I can't wait to see the book and do more about it. But before we move on to the Zoom wave goodbye, which is the famous way that all Bomarito interviews end. But before we do that, any final thoughts from either or both of you?
Well, we're really hoping that teachers use, intentional from the start as a guide for understanding the emergent readers that are sitting at their table, to really get to know them, understand how they progress and how they develop, not only as readers, but also as writers, and also as children who are acquiring phonemic awareness and acquiring phonetic skills. And, we just hope that they think critically about the leveled books that they put in front. And like Susan said, it depends on the kid in front of you, what you're going to give them, whether it's an A, a B, a C. It's not about the level. It's about the kid sitting in front of you and what they need to learn and what they need to learn next to move forward.
Yeah, beautifully said. I would just say, to me, the most important word is intentional. We're
Yes.
intentional in our book selection. We're intentional in coordinating what we're instructing and writing so that it coordinates with what's happening in reading. It's not just by accident. The same high frequency words are popping up in writing that pop up in reading, and that's intentional. The same type of decoding instruction is popping up in coding and writing. They're decoding and reading, and that's intentional. So it's just intentional teaching. It's not just whatever happens to pop up that day.
Right. And I'm hearing, I've heard the word systematic more than once. So what I'm hearing is that this is a program that includes a very strong phonics component.
Yeah.
Okay. And systematic and very direct instruction. Okay, I'm going to throw the share screen up one last time here, just so people can see the book. Intentional from the start, guiding emergent readers in small groups. So there'll be links to buy the book in the blog. And I'm certainly waiting for my copy to arrive. And so now we have reached that point in the interview where we do the famous Bomarito Zoom wave. So goodbye. Oh, let's see. There we go. Goodbye, everybody. Zoom wave.
Bye, everybody.
And
Thank you.
Oh, well, thank you both. And have a wonderful rest of the day. Here we go. Bomarito, learn to press the right buttons. Here we go.